April 29, 1945. A forest floor somewhere south of Augsburg, Bavaria. The world is the color of mud and wet pine needles. For 19-year-old Nachrichtenhelferin Lieselot Brandt, it has been this color for days. The air, thin and cold, carries the smell of damp earth and the distant, metallic tang of cordite. Every so often, the ground shivers, a deep, resonant tremor that travels from the solace of her worn boots all the way up her spine. It's the sound of the American Third Army's artillery, the sound of the world ending. She is huddled in a shallow scrape of earth behind a fallen log, her gray wool uniform soaked through, clinging to her skin like a second, colder layer of flesh. Beside her, a boy no older than 16, his face smudged with dirt and fear, clutches a carabiner 98K rifle that seems too large for his narrow shoulders. He is Volkssturm. A last resort. They are all last resorts. Lieselot's job was supposed to be signals. Relaying messages, connecting field telephones, listening to the crackle and hiss of a collapsing front. But there are no more signals to send. The lines are cut, the command structure a phantom. Now, her only duty is to exist. To stay low. Her stomach is a tight, acidic knot, an emptiness so profound it has become a physical presence. Breakfast, hours ago, was the same as every meal for the past month, a thin slice of Kriegsbrot, the war bread that is more sawdust and stretched rye flour than anything else. It felt like chewing on grit and despair, a coarse, sour lump that scraped her throat as it went down, offering no comfort, only the barest fuel to keep the machine of her body from ceasing completely. She can still feel its texture on her tongue, a phantom grittiness that never quite goes away. A new sound cuts through the patient drumbeat of the artillery. It's a low growl, a mechanical chewing that rips through the forest quiet. It's not the familiar clatter and squeal of a Panzer IV. This is different. Smoother. More relentless. The Volkssturm boy's head snaps up, his eyes wide. An old man, a veteran of the Great War with one good arm, crawls over to them. Panzer, he rasps, his voice a dry rustle. Amerikanische. He doesn't need to say it. They all know. The rumors have been their only news for weeks of Sherman tanks that move in unstoppable swarms, of soldiers so well fed they discard half-eaten tins of meat. Lieselot had dismissed it as defeatist talk. Now, the sound is real. It is getting closer. The forest erupts. The sharp crack of an M1 Garand echoes from the west, answered by the frantic, high-pitched burp of a German MG-42 somewhere to their right. It is a pointless conversation. A symphony of futility. Lieselot presses herself into the wet earth, her fingers digging into the mulch. You can feel the weight of the approaching vehicles, a pressure in the air itself. A shadow falls over their position as an M4 Sherman tank, its olive drab hull plastered with mud and gear, grinds past their hiding spot, not even seeing them. It is followed by men. Tall men in unfamiliar helmets, moving with a fluid, confident gait. They don't scurry or crawl. They walk. They walk as if they own the forest. The firefight is short, brutal, and one-sided. Shouts in English, sharp, guttural commands that sound like a series of angry barks cut through the sporadic German rifle fire. Lieselot pulls her head down, her world shrinking to the damp, earthy smell of the log in front of her. The boy beside her rises on one knee, brings his rifle up. A single, sharp crack, and he slumps forward without a sound, the rifle clattering onto the leaves. A dark stain spreads across the back of his gray tunic. It's over. The shouting is closer now. The sound of boots crunching on twigs and wet leaves. A shadow looms over her. She looks up from the mud, her heart a frantic bird beating against her ribs. A young American soldier stands there, his face streaked with sweat and grime. He is chewing something, a rhythmic motion of his jaw. He is impossibly tall, impossibly broad. In his hands, he holds an M1 rifle, its dark, circular muzzle pointed directly at her face. The world goes silent. There is only the soldier's steady breathing, the dark hole of the barrel, and the cold, final certainty of her own surrender. The muzzle of the M1 Garand does not waver. The American soldier's eyes, a pale, washed-out blue, are unreadable. They are not filled with hatred, nor with pity. They are simply weary, focused, and professional. He gestures with the rifle. Up. Get up. The words are foreign, but the meaning is universal. Slowly, painfully, Lieselot pushes herself up. Her joints ache, a complaint from a body running on nothing but fear and gritty bread. The wet wool of her uniform feels impossibly heavy, pulling her back toward the earth. She keeps her eyes down, looking at the soldier's boots. They are thick, sturdy leather, caked in the same Bavarian mud as her own, but they seem different. Unbreachable. She raises her hands in the air, a gesture she has seen in newsreels, a posture of utter submission. The soldier nods, his jaw still working on the gum he is chewing. Another GI comes up behind him, his sleeves rolled up to reveal thick, muscular forearms. He pats her down roughly, searching for weapons, his movements quick and impersonal. He finds nothing. They are herded out of the tree lane and onto a muddy cart track. Others are already there. A handful of Wehrmacht soldiers, their faces grey with exhaustion, the old man with one arm from the Volkssturm, his face a mask of stony resignation, and 4 other women from her signals unit. They are all that's left. A collection of the defeated. The Americans move around them with an efficiency that is both terrifying and mesmerizing. They communicate with hand signals and short, clipped phrases. They collect the discarded German rifles and helmets, tossing them into a careless pile. The sound of the metal clattering against other metal is the sound of their war ending. Lieselot watches a young GI pick up the boy's Karabiner 98K. He examines it with detached curiosity, works the bolt, then adds it to the heap. No ceremony. No acknowledgement of the life that just held it. It is just a piece of captured equipment. Propaganda films had shown them what to expect from the Americans. They were gangsters, brutes, defilers. Joseph Goebbels's voice, a constant presence on the radio for years, had painted them as monsters who would commit unspeakable acts. But these men are not the monsters of the radio. They are just soldiers. They look tired. Some look bored. A few of them smoke cigarettes, the smoke pluming into the damp air, the scent of the American tobacco rich and sweet, a smell so different from the harsh, acrid smoke of German cigarettes. They seem to ignore the prisoners for the most part, their attention focused on securing the area, on the next objective. This indifference is somehow more unnerving than outright cruelty. To the monsters of propaganda, you are an object of hate. To these men, you are simply in the way. They are marched down the track, away from the forest and the lingering smell of gunpowder. The guards walk alongside them, their rifles held in a casual, ready position. The squelch and suck of dozens of boots in the mud is the only sound. Lieselot's hunger, which had been momentarily silenced by the adrenaline of the firefight, returns with a vengeance. It's a hollow, grinding ache that radiates from her stomach through her entire body. She glances at the American guards. Their packs are bulging. Canteens slosh at their hips. She imagines what might be in those packs. Tins of meat. Crackers. Things she has only dreamed of. The thought is so powerful it makes her dizzy. She stumbles, catching herself before she falls. A guard glances at her, his expression unchanged, and then looks away. They march for what feels like hours, though it is probably less than one. The landscape is a blur of green fields and dark woods under a low, oppressive sky. Finally, they are directed into a large, open pasture bordered by a stone wall. Several olive-drab trucks and a jeep are parked near the road. This is a temporary collection point. A place of waiting. An American sergeant, a man with a square jaw and 3 chevrons on his sleeve, barks an order. A guard pushes them toward the center of the field. "Sitz," he says, using the German word. "Sit." They collapse onto the damp grass, a huddle of gray uniforms in a sea of green. The waiting begins. The uncertainty is a physical weight, pressing down on them, as heavy and cold as the Bavarian air. What happens now? Where are they going? Are they waiting for transport, or for something else entirely? The light begins to fail. The low, gray clouds thicken, smudging the line between the hills and the sky. A cold drizzle begins to fall, dotting the prisoners' thin wool uniforms, seeping into the fabric. They huddle together for warmth, a silent, miserable tableau in the middle of the farmer's field. The American soldiers seem unaffected by the weather. They move with purpose around their vehicles, some cleaning their rifles, others talking in low tones, their laughter carrying across the field like a sound from another world. The smell of coffee begins to drift from a small fire near the jeep, a dark, rich, roasted scent that makes Lieselot's empty stomach clench with a painful, desperate longing. For the German prisoners, coffee was a memory, replaced years ago by a bitter, roasted barley substitute called muckafuck. This is the smell of a forgotten luxury. It is the smell of victory. The soldiers begin to eat. They open small tins and cardboard boxes from their C rations and K rations. The prisoners watch them, their eyes following every movement. They see spoonfuls of hash or stew being lifted to mouths, see men biting into thick, pale crackers. The sight is a form of torture. It is a stark, undeniable illustration of the gulf that separates the victors from the vanquished. Lieselot turns her head away, staring at the wet grass, trying to swallow the sour saliva that has filled her mouth. You tell yourself not to hope. Hope is a weakness. They are the enemy. They will feed their own, and if the prisoners get anything, it will be scraps, dregs, whatever is left. That is the rule of war. Then, something changes. A young soldier, a private first class with a boyish, freckled face, detaches from the group by the fire. He is carrying something. He walks directly toward the cluster of female prisoners. Lieselot's body tenses. The other women fall silent, their eyes fixed on the approaching American. They instinctively draw closer together. Is he coming to mock them? To demand something? He stops a few feet away from them. He seems hesitant, almost shy. He holds out his hand. He says something in English, a soft, questioning sound. No one understands. He tries again, gesturing with what he's holding. In one hand, he has a small, brown, paper-wrapped bar. In the other, wrapped in waxed paper, is something thick and white. He gestures specifically toward Lieselot. She flinches back, shaking her head, convinced this is some kind of cruel trick. The soldier takes another step closer. He crouches down so he is at eye level with her. It's okay, he says slowly, as if speaking to a frightened animal. He points to the object in his hand, then to his own mouth. Food. Essen. He knows the German word. He carefully unwraps the waxed paper. Lying in his palm is a slice of bread. But it is not bread as Lieselot knows it. It is not the dark, dense, gray-brown block of sawdust and rye she has subsisted on. This is pure white. Impossibly, luminously white, like fresh fallen snow. The texture looks soft, yielding. It looks like a cloud. It looks like cake. Her mind cannot process it. White flour was for the Nazi Party elite, for birthday cakes in a life before the war. It did not exist for ordinary people, and certainly not for prisoners. She stares at it, her throat tight. This cannot be real. He holds it out to her. She does not move. Her mind is a whirlwind of suspicion and disbelief. Is it poisoned? Is this a game? Behind her, She hears one of the other women whisper, "Was ist das?" What is it? The soldier's expression is patient. He breaks off a tiny piece of the bread and pops it into his own mouth to show that it's safe. Then he extends his hand again, pushing the slice gently toward her. His fingers brush against hers. They are warm. With a trembling hand, a hand that feels disconnected from her body, Lieselot takes it. It is weightless. It is softer than any fabric she has touched in years. He then takes the brown bar, breaks off a piece, and offers that as well. The scent hits her first, a sweet, rich, intoxicating aroma she recognizes from childhood. Chocolate. He is offering her white bread and chocolate. The absurdity of the situation is staggering. An enemy soldier, whose comrades just killed the boy beside her, is kneeling in the mud, offering her the food of kings. She holds the two items in her palm, staring at them as if they are alien artifacts. Her hand is shaking so much she is afraid she will drop them. Is this real food? The question hangs in the cold, damp air, a silent, stunning thunderclap. The world has narrowed to the two objects in Lieselot's trembling palm. The slice of white bread feels unreal, its texture a feathery promise against her calloused skin. The piece of chocolate is dark and solid, a dense block of impossibility. The young American soldier gives her a small, encouraging nod and retreats back to his comrades, leaving a profound and unnerving silence in his wake. The other women prisoners stare, first at Lieselot, then at the miraculous offering in her hand. It is as if he has given her a holy relic. For a long moment, she does nothing but look at it. To eat it seems like a transgression, like destroying something too perfect for this muddy, gray world. But the gnawing hunger, the deep, cellular craving of a body starved for months, is a relentless tyrant. It overrides suspicion, it overrides awe. Slowly, she brings the bread toward her face. She smells it first. There is no trace of the sour, moldy scent of the Kriegsbrot. This smells clean, faintly sweet, with the wholesome aroma of yeast. It is the smell of a kitchen, of a home, of a time of peace she can barely remember. She closes her eyes and takes a small, hesitant bite. The sensation is a shock that travels through every nerve in her body. It doesn't fight back. It doesn't scrape the roof of her mouth or demand to be ground down by her teeth. It yields. It is pillowy, airy, and dissolves on her tongue in a wave of pure, starchy softness. Her body, so accustomed to the arduous task of digesting fillers like sawdust and chalk, is utterly confused. Her shrunken stomach cramps, not in pain, but in stunned surprise. You have to teach yourself how to eat again. You have to remember that food is not supposed to be a punishment. Tears well in her eyes, hot and unexpected. They are not tears of sadness or joy, but of sheer, overwhelming sensation. She takes another bite, and then another, eating with a slowness that borders on reverence. An older woman beside her, a signals clerk named Helga, watches her, her own eyes glistening. Is it cookin', she whispers, using the word for cake. They have no other frame of reference for something so soft, so refined. It must be a cake. No, Lieselot manages to say, her voice thick. It's bread. The statement sounds ludicrous, even to her. Then, she turns her attention to the chocolate. This is an even greater treasure. Sugar and fat are specters from a distant past. She breaks off a tiny corner and places it on her tongue. The effect is instantaneous and electric. A powerful wave of rich, bitter sweetness floods her mouth. It's overwhelming, a concentrated blast of energy and flavor that her deprived system can barely handle. It melts slowly, a velvety coating that seems to soothe the raw, scraped clean surfaces of her mouth. For a body running on empty, it is a physiological jolt, a direct infusion of life. She can feel the rush of sugar hit her bloodstream, a dizzying, light-headed sensation. It is more than just food, it is a powerful drug. It is the taste of a different reality, one where such things are not only possible but plentiful enough to be given away to a defeated enemy. The other GIs have noticed the interaction. Soon, 2 more soldiers approach the group of women, holding out their own offerings. A tin of processed cheese spread and a handful of crackers. Another bar of chocolate. The women accept them with a dazed, silent gratitude. They share the food, breaking the bread and chocolate into smaller pieces, passing them from hand to hand. Some of them weep openly, their shoulders shaking as they eat. Others devour their portions with a desperate, animal hunger. But for all of them, the act is transformative. This simple gesture of humanity from the enemy is a more potent weapon than any artillery shell. It demolishes the carefully constructed walls of propaganda in an instant. The American gangsters and brutes are feeding them. And not with scraps, but with luxuries. The cognitive dissonance is immense, a seismic shock to their entire worldview. As Lieselot swallows the last, sweet, melting vestige of the chocolate, a new set of orders rings out across the field. The square-jawed sergeant is on his feet, pointing at them. It's time to move. The brief, miraculous interlude is over. They are herded to their feet, their journey into captivity resuming, but everything has changed. The war may be over, but a new, more confusing conflict has just begun inside her mind. The back of the American GMC truck is cold steel and hard wooden benches. It smells of gasoline, canvas, and the damp wool of 20 captured Germans packed into the enclosed space. The truck lurches into motion, its powerful engine a confident roar as it pulls onto the paved road. Lieselot sits pressed between the old one-armed Volkssturmmann and Helga, the trucks rattling and swaying a constant, jarring rhythm. The physical sensation of the food is already beginning to fade. The pleasant weight in her stomach is a new and welcome feeling, but the overwhelming sensory shock of the bread and chocolate is receding, leaving a profound and unsettling aftertaste in its place. It is the taste of a truth she had never considered. For years, she had been told that Germany's hardships were a noble sacrifice. The rationing, the ersatz goods, the sawdust in the bread, these were the prices of a heroic struggle against a world bent on their destruction. Every gnawing hunger pang was a badge of honor, a sign of her commitment to the fatherland. She had believed it. They had all believed it. But the image of that soft, white bread, so casually given, has shattered that belief system. That bread was not a miracle. It was not a luxury saved for a field marshal. It was common, everyday food for a common American soldier. That simple fact implies a reality so far beyond her comprehension that it makes her head spin. While Germany was grinding sawdust into its flour, America was producing this. While German children had forgotten the taste of real chocolate, American soldiers carried it in their pockets as a simple ration. Lieselot looks out through a small gap in the canvas cover. She sees other American trucks, an endless convoy moving through the German dusk. She sees jeeps, half-tracks, supply vehicles of every shape and size, all painted in the same olive drab, all moving with the same inexorable purpose. She looks at the faces of her fellow prisoners, illuminated by the occasional passing headlight. Their expressions are dazed, inward-looking. They are all wrestling with the same revelation. The war wasn't just lost in Stalingrad or Normandy. It was lost in the wheat fields of Kansas, in the steel mills of Pittsburgh, in the sprawling factories of Detroit. They had not been fighting an army, they had been fighting an entire industrial world of plenty, a world they could not even imagine. The gnawing emptiness in her stomach has been replaced by a different kind of hunger. It is a hunger for understanding. How could they have been so wrong? How could they have been so blind? Every speech by the Führer, every triumphant newsreel, every poster proclaiming their imminent victory now seems like a cruel and pathetic lie. The white bread was the proof. It was a tangible piece of evidence of a world that had not been starving, that had not been sacrificing, that had simply been marshalling its immense, unshakable power. The feeling that settles over her is not just the bitterness of defeat. It is a profound, soul-crushing shame. Shame for her own gullibility. Shame for the hollow patriotism that had sustained her through the cold and the hunger. The truck rumbles on through the night, carrying them deeper into enemy territory, deeper into an unknown future. A prisoner of war camp. Re-education. Interrogation. She does not know what awaits her. But the primal fear of the enemy, the fear of the monstrous brute from the propaganda posters, is gone. It has been replaced by a complex and confusing mixture of awe and resentment. The enemy is not a monster. The enemy is a boy with a freckled face who gives away food that is better than anything she has eaten in 6 years. That is a much more difficult truth to accept. She leans her head against the vibrating canvas wall of the truck, the motion a rough sort of lullaby. She can still, if she concentrates, conjure the ghost of sweetness on her tongue. It is the flavor of her nation's utter and absolute ruin. But in the strange, paradoxical alchemy of survival, it is also the first taste of a world beyond the war, the first hint that a life beyond hunger might, impossibly, still exist.